Welcome to Christian News with Kevin, the most trusted name in Christian news. I've been doing Christian news for years now, and this is the place that you go if you want quality Christian news. In this piece of paper, I have the news right now, right off the ticker, letting us know that there is some big news that's coming up right after this. Hey guys, I'm Kevin. I'm doing a commercial right now. Today's episode is brought to you by SGK Plus. And don't forget to like and subscribe on this video. Also head over to the SGK podcast. It's in the description. I just talked to Nathan and Joseph over at the Overthinkers podcast, and we had a big old time. It was a blast. I also just got out of the shower. Unrelated. All right, let's get to this news. We're not gonna fuddle around today, are we? Are we? We might. You never know when I'm gonna fuddle around. I just found out. I was just informed. Many of you informed me of this, and I had to talk about it here on this, on this news broadcast. I actually don't mind talking about Christian news. I've thought about, at times, doing a Christian news show. So if you like this, if you enjoy this, I don't mind throwing one of these videos together from time to time. All right, well, today, there is a new video out that David A.R. put out on his socials. It was on Instagram, Facebook, all the socials. Let's just watch it and see what exactly he's talking about today.
Hi, guys. Hey,
Hi, David.
So we're getting a lot of questions about, I've been kind of working on this script right now.
He's kind of working on the script right now since, no, I don't know. I have no idea of the inner workings of PureFlix, but I do know that 3 other people are working on the script, but he's kind of working on it too.
Now, we are doing the next installment of God's Not Dead.
Yes!
God's Not Dead.
Yes, I'll tell you what, guys. Honestly and truly, God's Not Dead is my bread and butter. It's my favorite thing to review. It's fun. It's easy to poke fun at, but it's also just, you know what? I've learned to love it. So to hear that they're doing a 4th installment of this dead franchise is just utterly insane to me.
There's God's Not Dead, the sequel.
Yes, I remember.
Did you see
God's
this
Not
one?
Dead, the sequel.
God's Not Dead, A Light in Darkness.
No, nobody saw it.
And now is the time. I'm very excited to share with you guys. We're doing the next installment of God's Not Dead, called We the People. There it is. If you guys,
there it is.
If you ever saw the movie Mr. Smith Goes to Washington with Jimmy Stewart,
did.
I have always loved that movie, and very excited that the writers Chuck and Carrie, who penned the first couple, and they're back, and with Tommy Blaze and
Tommy Blaze is back.
Right after you watch It's a Wonderful Life, make sure you tune in to watch Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. You'll kind of get an idea of what is God's Not Dead, this next installment, going to be like.
I love just the outright blatant. So if you want to know what this movie is, you could check out a far more popular movie that's already out that you could watch that. And then this will be that, but not as good and Christian.
Okay, so, I was in Malta shooting not that long ago, and where do you go from Malta? Where is the place that you want to shoot? And so, of all the places that I would want to go, I want to go
Washington?
to Oklahoma.
Oh, Oklahoma.
One, I was actually born in Oklahoma. I don't know if you know that or not.
I didn't.
I was born in Tulsa. My dad pastored a church there, and so we lived there for a short time. I'm excited to go to film God's Not Dead, We the People. We're putting together the different elements of the cast. We're bringing a lot of the cast back, and excited to share this with you.
Exciting.
Hope you're well. God bless you.
Looks like the related video to that is First Date by Blink-182. Okay,
man,
cool.
so
That's fine. Thanks, Facebook, a garbage platform. Cool. Well, ladies and gentlemen, wow, what in the world? This was unexpected. I think I'd heard wind of it. I'd talked to Tommy Blaze a little bit about this, about how this movie was going to be made. He was supposed to be on my podcast and is yet to come on the podcast, so I'll have to give him a call and let him know that I'm ready and willing. Here's the funny thing. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, it's a great movie. It's very interesting to kind of see this, just kind of the world of politics at the time that movie was made. But what that movie does, and the intention, I think, of that movie is to kind of, it's twofold. First, it kind of informs the people that the people in Washington aren't who you may think they are. And it also, I think, is intended to encourage people in Washington to be more like what the people think that they are. So it's the story of a guy who loves the government. It loves America and its history and its founding and what it is and what it stands for. He's a very naive guy, and he goes to Washington. The reason is because he's kind of a naive idiot. And a senator, I think, dies unexpectedly. And so they take the guy, Mr. Smith, who's just so naive, and they're like, oh, this guy will be really easy to control. So they send him to Washington, this no-name guy, to act as kind of a pawn, a puppet for them, these corrupt politicians. That's redundant to say, isn't it? He goes to Washington, and there's this whole sequence of him looking at everything, the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial, and all these different places, and he's like, wow, Washington, I just love it, it's amazing. But as he's there, he starts to get people trying to puppet him around. He realizes that maybe this stuff isn't so good. Like, I thought that this place was people trying to help other people, and it turns out that it's the swamp. It's exactly what I hope that we all know Washington is. And I think that the movie does really do a good job at kind of informing you, the public, of what Washington really is. This isn't a bunch of people we just want to help people and give people health care and give people jobs. But these are a lot of people working for a lot of corporations attempting to get their way passed, and laws and government often favor lawyers, and then it favors the people who can afford lawyers. And so I think that would be a weird premise. And I don't know. I have no idea what the movie's going to be. But if it goes along the lines of what other God's Not Dead movies are, the other Chuck and Carrie God's Not Dead movies, if you have this naive belief that government is Christian and that it's implementing Christian values, like you have some character and he's like, I believe that the government is out to help Christians. And then he goes to Washington and finds out, wait, look at all these people who aren't Christian here and they hate God. This isn't the way it's supposed to be. And then he filibusters his way into getting the Christians back in charge. That is beyond naive. I almost feel like that's kind of a meta-naive, where the film is actually taking a naive approach beyond what the character would. Who knows? Maybe this is a movie like the last movie where he goes to Washington, he thinks that it's out for the people's interest and render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and then he gets there and he realizes, wait a minute, this is just a den of thieves, and I'm gonna separate myself from it and actually try to make a difference with my neighbors. Instead of trying to rule from the top down, I try to impact people and their lives. And maybe that's me and my libertarianism coming through and impacting my opinion of what I think this movie should be. But it's also a little bit of a comparison and contrast of what Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, because Mr. Smith Goes to Washington is not a libertarian film at all. It's a criticism of Washington. I guess I have a hard time understanding how that would come into play. Since this is written by the people who wrote the first two God's Not Deads, I'm trying to think of how are they going to approach this Mr. Smith Goes to Washington storyline? Seems to contradict kind of the idea of Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, which is let's get the corruption out of Washington. Because whether you know it or not, Christianity is a special interest group. And so if you're just fighting for the right to be in charge, for the ring of power, that's so different than fighting for the right to be free. I'm saying like the other God's Not Dead movies, where you had people pushing for the right to teach Christianity in school, or the right not to hear a belief that's different than their own in a private school or a public school. Like, if it's anything like the other ones, it's going to be very victim-y. Maybe it's going to be about COVID. That would be fun. And so that's where it gets kind of fuddled for me, when these movies take this approach that is the same fervor and anti-corruption that existed in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington also exists when I'm fighting for the right to have a Sunday school class for my students at my public school. It's not the same thing. You're fighting for your special interest group rather than fighting for freedom for everybody. And I think that Mr. Smith Goes to Washington is very much counter to that. I'm entirely interested and fascinated by this idea of them making another movie, and I hope that it is exactly what I'm afraid it will be, but I hope that the world has moved on past that and will laugh its head off along with me as I make a review of that film. But who knows? Thank you so much for watching. If you guys like my little what's going on in Christian news videos, these are a lot of fun to make, and I like looking at this stuff. I'll do more. I really will. So that's what's happening, and that's my opinions about it, and that's the way it is, right here on Say Goodnight, Kevin. Good night.
Had a great reputation, but I ruined it. Homeschooled in them out, grew the fit. Might be just a Carolina kid, but I gotta throw it. Not a farmer, I ain't shoveling nobody's bullshit.